Welcome back to the swamp. So Hatchet 3 tells the story of Marybeth once again going into the swamp, armed to the teeth with mercenaries, big motherfuckers with guns, trying to take down Victor Crowley once and for all. What's going on, guys? Been a while since I've taken a break on the Hatchet series. I reviewed Hatchet 1 and Hatchet 2 pretty quick in succession. Watched Hatchet 3, needed a bit of a break before I got into this review. I'll start off by saying Hatchet 3 is not as bad as Hatchet 2. Hatchet 2 really annoyed the shit out of me with how terrible that movie was. Hatchet 3 is not quite as egregious, but it's not quite good either. So starting right off with the positives, I will say that Hatchet 3 is almost like a slightly better version of Hatchet 2. If you take away the whole mystery aspect of whether or not this guy is actually Marybeth's uncle and gonna actually kill Victor Crowley by, making amends, how they were doing it in Hatchet 2. This one's just straight up, let's just go kill this motherfucker. But it's the same concept. You got Marybeth, you got a bunch of guys with guns going into the swamp to take down Victor Crowley. Victor Crowley just massacres everybody in the most absurdly, obnoxiously, comedically, ridiculously way possible. The big positive I have as far as characters, though, is that I actually liked Caroline Williams' character. Not only is it cool seeing Stretch from Texas Chainsaw 2 in a horror movie like this, and this is a franchise that likes to pull horror alumni for different characters, so it's not like a huge surprise that she shows up in it, but when she showed up, I was like, hey, it's Stretch. And her character is actually kind of interesting. She plays a reporter who has been investigating Victor Crowley and been posting, on the tabloids you find in the grocery section, where she's been posting all her findings on Victor Crowley and the curse of Victor Crowley and the curse of these swamps. Nobody believes her. Finally, she gets a hold of Marybeth, who is in a jail cell, and she's trying to convince her we need to go and we need to do this now to get rid of the curse of Victor Crowley. And by this, it means bring Victor Crowley the ashes of his long dead father, played by Kane Hodder, who also plays Victor Crowley. So the storyline behind it, yet another reason to let's go into the swamp, try to get rid of Victor Crowley with this method of getting rid of the curse, doesn't necessarily interest me, but just the fact that Caroline Williams' character has a lot of charisma. She actually is probably the best acting performance in this movie because she's just so strong-willed about, we need to end this curse and put this demented soul to rest, and you miserable bitch, you're gonna get out of this jail cell and help me. I believed her, and I actually wanted Caroline Williams to succeed in this more than I wanted Danielle Harris to succeed.
Hey, Mr. McMullen, remember me?
Who are you?
I'm Amanda Fowler.
From the paper?
Yes, sir.
I ought to shoot you dead for waking me up at this crazy hour. It's the middle of the night, for Christ's sakes.
It's 8:45.
Well, that's what I said. Who is the colored?
Who's the Deputy Winslow? Jefferson Parish?
The other positive is that the mercenaries and the big motherfuckers with guns is being led by the awesome Derek Mears. That's the guy who played Jason in the remake, who's my favorite Jason. He's not quite as badass in this role as he is in Jason's role, but I like the fact that you get a cool, badass character to lead the charge in this, and he's actually a much better and a much more capable leader than I thought that Candyman was in Hatchet 2, and the other guys in the group aren't nearly as annoying as they were in Hatchet 2. Hatchet 2, I wanted them all to die in the first 5 minutes. This movie, I'm actually like, okay, maybe they can do some damage to Victor Crowley, let's go on this ride. I also thought that the gore was pretty decent in this one. I don't think that it's quite as successful in the ridiculous that it was in the first movie, and it's definitely not as annoyingly weird and just flat humor that it was in Hatchet 2. It's somewhere in the happy middle. Not the greatest kills of all time, but very suitable for a movie like this to go on just for a cheap entertainment thrill ride. And I will say, for a character like Victor Crowley that's been through 3 movies now, the conclusion that they gave him between the character of Marybeth and Victor Crowley was a satisfying end. I thought that it was a decently written way to get rid of the curse of Victor Crowley. I thought that the actual showdown between Caroline Williams and Danielle Harris and Victor Crowley was both extreme and a little bit emotional in one spot, and then was actually effectively creepy in one spot. I mean, it was a good little conclusion to their story, and I wish it would have stayed that way. And we'll talk about the next movie and why it should have stayed that way in the next review, but I thought the conclusion was actually pretty decent in this movie. Now, Getting into the negatives. Again, like I said, it's a somewhat better version of Hatchet 2, but on the negative side of that, it's basically the same exact movie as Hatchet 2. Take some big motherfuckers with guns into the swamp to kill Victor Crowley. We've seen it before. It failed miserably for me the first time. It's like giving another director a chance to do the same exact storyline, and it feels redundant. The entire movie feels redundant. And even though they did do a slightly better job, still doesn't take away from the fact that we've already seen it. This is a copy and paste of the plot of the second movie. Another gigantic negative that probably most people that watch this movie are not going to agree with me with. I just don't like Danielle Harris in this role. I'm not saying that the girl who played Marybeth in the first movie was an Oscar-winning actress, because she wasn't, but she was good in the role of Marybeth. She was interesting. I actually rooted for her. When you get to Danielle Harris, it just feels like it's Danielle Harris for the sake of putting Danielle Harris in your movie. Now, I love Danielle Harris. Don't get me wrong. I love her. She's awesome. She's gorgeous. She's horror royalty as far as I'm concerned, but she just doesn't bring anything to the role of Marybeth, and it's even less in this movie because she just spends the whole time being pissed off in a jail cell, not wanting anything to do with Victor Crowley. After the last movie, she was just hell-bent for revenge, and she's just a boring character. I mean, when you stack her next to Caroline Williams, that's why I say I wanted Caroline Williams to be the protagonist and to see her succeed in this story more than I wanted the actual protagonist to. Another thing that I'm still not a big fan of, the look of Victor Crowley. I just don't like the look of it. It seems like it's just bad and cheap. And I know it's, to a degree, some of that shit in this franchise is done for the sake of looking kind of cheap for nostalgia's sake, but I just don't like the look of him. He's not like a badass killer. I wouldn't want a poster of Victor Crowley on my wall. And I had a lot of people hype me up thinking that Hatchet 3 was where they like nailed the look of Victor Crowley. His hair is a little bit different. That's about the only difference for me. He looks a little bit sweatier. Still looks like Victor Crowley, and I'm just not a fan of the look. Probably the big negative for me. It's gonna seem like it's a really small negative, but it's pretty big for me whenever I noticed that Derek Mears was in this movie. You had the opportunity for the new badass Jason Voorhees to have a huge showdown, bloody, bare-knuckle brawl with the old school badass Jason Voorhees of Kane Hodder, and their fight is pathetically short. It's not entertaining, and the outcome of it to me, I was just like, that was a waste. Why was that even in this movie if you weren't going to do it right? If they would have had a badass showdown between those two characters in the third act, guarantee you this movie went up at least a rating just for that alone. But it's not. It sucks. I hated it. And my final negative, and we'll get out of here because I don't have any more thoughts on this fucking movie, and really this franchise, but unfortunately there's one more to talk about. The comedy, no, it's not comedy. It's goofiness thrown in there just to kind of change up the tone. The comedy was decent in the first movie. Since then, whoever writes the comedy for these movies just needs to stop and get away from comedy because you're not making me even smile.
These are somebody's balls. Balls are not supposed to be hanging from trees. That guy knows what's up.
There's not a snicker. There's not even a smirk in this movie. It's just flat comedy, unsuccessful comedy. Just stop. Just stop. The flat comedy, the mediocre kills, the bad acting, the huge blue balls fight between Derek Mears and Kane Hodder, the weak main character of Danielle Harris as Marybeth. So many elements in this movie were so bad to me that even the few things that I enjoyed, it just keeps me from recommending it the way that it should be. This could have been a victory lap for the Hatchet series, but it's just another sequel that I don't have any desire to watch again. So, unfortunately, Hatchet 3, I'm going to tell you to skip it. So what do you guys think of Hatchet 3? Are you a fan of this franchise? Is Hatchet 3 your favorite, your least favorite? Would you want to see another one of these movies? We know we got one more, but did you want to see another one? Put all your thoughts on Hatchet, Hatchet 3, Victor Crowley, anything regarding this franchise down in the comment section below, guys, and we'll talk about it. Please like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. If you want to check out some of my social media links, check the video description below for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Patreon, my lovely Patreon page, which is a great way to give back to this channel, help it grow, and get awesome exclusive privileges for your eyes only if you decide to become a patron, such as weekly Blu-ray digital code giveaways. That's a nice little thing I just added on there. So check that out, guys, as well as my Spreadshirt store. I have a store with 4 designs right now. Check the link for that. Very cool stuff. And if you want to check out some more of my videos, you can check out a few more by clicking right over here.